The Ring of Dain Thar Duin, Book 5, The Warrior's Doom and Mountain Tomb. Death of day and birth of night in undergrowth through all lands hunted beasts wait for golden twilight, and as the last rays burn the sky they stir from fevered slumber, cautiously tasting the air for the scent of their pursuer, and, finding themselves with brief relief, leave their safety to gain further leagues from blood and teeth. So the meek and fearful savor those last beams of the sun before placing their safety in darkness, their eyes grown accustomed to moonlight, starlight, and pale reflections in dark waters. Yet still as they walk dim forested halls they are reminded of the world of the sun, radiant majesty flaring the forest to green, and they desire to flee no more and return to the light. All creatures of the good earth love only the sun, but for fear of wolves and other beasts have taken refuge in the night, and grown so used to the dark nothing that they come to hate the light, and no longer can return to the living world. Wary should all beasts be who pass through the mantle of the night, that it not cling to them, or forget what it was to walk unbent by fear, proud and true to its nature. So great were the captains, that though they passed the Isle Kelrose by darkness they felt no love for it, but rather it was hateful to them. Unchanged by the night, as lesser men grow used to thievery, the warriors held their allegiance only to the sun. As the nights wore on, their love for the sun and its works grew in them as they went into the heart of the mountains. The Otter led them to a village so small that it had no name, the place of his birth. For fear of discovery he had not brought Ethelwald there in the first flight. Yet when the hunter was in pursuit he called for their quick succor, his people to guard them as they slipped from his grasp. Up crags and steep rocks went those creatures, as voles from hawks skirting around the mountains, until at a path deep into their heart they picked the quiet steps unseen from the valley below, reaching the true mountains by the 5th day of their flight, and by goat trails went into them. Only when far from searching eyes did they regain their speed. Yet they were not alone, and as days passed in those hard mountain places Ethelwald saw signs of a people mysterious watching them, and though he had the strength of Kellach, the cunning of the otter, and the wit of the sparrow, he could not see them. Each morning he found their camp surrounded by their tracks. Each night they came ever closer, yet though he peered into the darkness he could not mark them. He told his guardians, and the sparrow turned thoughtful, Kellach nodded grimly, but the otter grew merry. Well spotted, though for days their marks were not concealed. Yea, though in the mountains one feels they are alone, we walk to my people, this land my home. Our passing has long been marked. Do you believe that they who raised the otter are not warriors of some ferocity? Nay, we go now to a rugged people. Those who live in the Isle Kelrose chase goats up sheer rock and make their drink from the blood of bears. A quiet people it is true, and of little fame. Though our Tella is properly the Unlondar, we see little of our cousins, not from any poisoned blood, but simply because we are too free to live beneath a Telach. We name ourselves the Isle Londar, and there is no people freer in any land beneath the sun. We are a small people, numbering fewer than 100. Each name is known to us. In halls and houses we live not, but wander the cliffs with our flocks. Yet we do gather at the mead hall to sing and drink together, not the wondrous singing of the bird, but the hearty singing of men. It is to that place I take you now. Of their tracks, fear not. I am the only one of my family to leave our home and go into Ioland beyond. For this reason they do crowd us as we sleep. They are eager to see their child returned to them. Each night they sit beside the fire, waiting until I reach their home to welcome me in true Eolish fashion. Doubtless they are frightened by the beast I have brought home, for Kellogg had marked them the first night in these high places, and is prepared to spring upon them should they step into the light of our camp. I tell you, my ward, long time passing only grows the heart's need to return home. This you will note as you grow older. In good cheer he went deeper into the mountains, behind him the company following, and Kellogg less wary, his hand off the pummel, but not far removed. Oft it is, when the hunted finds a moment of respite, that the hunter strikes and his prey devoured. As they went deeper into the Isle Kelrows they carried death with them, for their dark pursuer reached the mountain's feet, ever drawn to the boon he had pledged himself to, the remaining crows and their captains attending him. 5 days from gentle valleys lies the heart of stones, where the great peaks of the Isle Kelrows are born, and the people of the Otter make their gathering. The hall rested beneath the great tower of stone, Isle Ludrog, and the stream of waters which is born of its snow. Though not deep, it is swift, running as the waning moon around the mead hall before rushing to lower lands, leaving dry only a narrow walk between it and Isle Ludrog's shoulder, which 2 men abreast can walk. Wood grows but sparingly in those parts, so that the hall of that people was made over many lifetimes, only the oldest and strongest wood used. The captains came to this hall after 5 days' traveling, the Otter leading them over the narrow walk, eager and laughing, his voice dancing off the stones and mingling with the water. After him came the Sparrow with Ethelwald, his spirits lifted by those of his friend. Last came the warrior Kellogg, watchful for some treachery. They heard no sounds of mirth as they approached, yet when they entered, the hall was filled, 100 people in their seats, and a great cheer went up. A place for them upon the highest bench, below nobody. They had little wood, yet the hearth fire blazed with terrific mirth. As they took their seats they were cheered again. Without word they feasted on rich bear meats and dark mead, a richness of feast which Kellogg had not known since the hall of Halla. The moon rose and set, yet still the feast went on, until at last the Otter stood and spoke to his people. Long have I been away, living among the many sons of Eol. Yet had I known your desire to see my return, and your generosity, sooner would I have returned. You have given a great deal to us, and in return I have brought gifts. With me is Kellogg, that great warrior which has long battled for the peace of Malach. His sword is fierce. I have seen him deal a mortal wound to one cursed, a fearsome demon of darkness. I am in life debt to him. Yet my travels beyond the mountain do not belong to battle entire, for beside me sits the Sparrow, a man of talent divine. For you might wander all Eoland for 3 lifetimes, and not find skill such as his. He shall sing to you in thanks for your remembrance of true guest right. For I do shiver, knowing that in Eoland these rites are dying with each passing day. For the war of breaking and shattering have made man into beasts. Of this world, far removed from your homes, I now bring you a song, wonder at its sorrow. The Sparrow, caught off guard at this sudden command, was still feasting upon that good table of his host. He hurriedly finished and took his place beside the still roaring fire. And he sang. At the first note he held them each spellbound, wavering, soft. Never did he raise his voice, but stayed ever quiet, so that those in the hall had to remain silent to hear. The sparrow sang the song of Malach and Neola. No love more noble ever blossomed. Truly there was not a man which was better able to govern men, nor woman more graceful and kind. Hard fought the king, just his governance, generous her gifts to the Eolish, her works beauty. Yet anger brewed in distant holds, horror descended in the night raid of Helm Hylas. There was his ending, the timber of Hala wept as it burned, blood and ash, his line vanishing from the earth, but in that seed there was hope still. The mountain peoples did weep, and though they had not seen that king, they longed for his reign. For the people of the Isle Londar had heard of the distant good king, and held him as their true king. Yet none had ever seen him, or gone to his feasts. They did weep, for as a people of Eoland they had known the peace he gave them, and in his death the isle moved from violence to violence. They did weep, for they had not known the cause of their king's death, knowing only of the pain which followed. When the sparrow ended his singing, all acclaimed him and gave a great cheer. The otter wept also, and though urgent was it that he asked their succor, he waited until proper praise was given his friend, greatest of mortal voices. When they grew silent again, he began to speak, knowing that he asked a great sacrifice of them. My cousins, I have not lied. Here truly is the greatest man of 3 ages. His voice comes from Eoland, that land beyond your wandering. I have walked it for many years, and I come to you now with the sad knowledge that this land is in pain, more terrible than when Malach died. We have come here in flight from a terrible evil, a terror which has followed us into these mountains. He who follows will slay this boy and take from him that which in his twisted eye is his. Yet we 3 are sworn, by those bonds of brotherhood and fealty, to guard him until manhood, giving him what little skill we have that he might end terror. Cousins, I came here not to return home, but for your succor. When I thought we were safe, I did not come to you. Well do I know your love for quiet. But now death tireless walks behind us, fanatic in its search, unrelenting in its endurance, ravenous in its lust. Brothers, I come to you not in a time of peace, but with the most desperate request of my life. Fight with me. Fight when this evil comes to your door. Fight and die with me here. Let us stand against this darkness. We, in this last pocket of calm, shall face that force which has brought the island to its knees. I ask this house to fight with me. Fight, blood of mine. Share this battle and be revenged. To him, in reply, spoke only a child of 6, as all in the hall held perfect silence. No elder, no warrior, for the fate of any people belongs to the young. So she spoke, and gave verdict to that fate. He that follows behind has come to our lands. We follow him close, though he marks our passing well. A dark terror is he. Little do we know of the land beyond Isle Kelrose, yet still clearly we see that the wound of Eoland has come to place his anguish on our people. No place remains outside the storm long. Rain falls on all lands, and now it is us who must weather terror. You have returned to your people at the utmost limit of your power, not when you held supreme confidence in your strength. Horrible must be your foe for you to return here. For this we understand that which you ask of us. We shall aid you, in this as in all things, for you are our blood." The hall found her words just and true, her judgment given for all lives of the small clan. They did end their feasting, and rose from their benches without further discussion. All things were taken out of the hall, and a barricade begun beside the stream, and when all benches and tables were set, they took the very timbers of the hall to their defence. They did not stop until the floors were torn from the ground and placed to their wall. The thatch they wetted in the stream, then placed atop the barricade that fire would not catch upon it. That which remained was sharpened to spears and given to all hands. Thus were the 100 Ail Londar prepared for battle. Tearfully the Otter aided their works, so generous were they to their blood. Yet also to him fell the duty of command, through stratagem to defeat that which was unconquered. And though in many battles he had led men into blood and toil until victory was his, they were a foreign blood. As he worked, the Otter felt the life living beside him as never before. These were his people, and that life precious to him. In their eyes he saw the brownness of rich earth, their fingers strong and clever. In their breathing was the wind, their voices caught by it, sent sailing through the hollow, dancing off the walls of stone, a language ancient and good, spoken as a growing heirloom from that time when man first stood separate from the mud. It was precious to him. The Otter knew for the first time a feeling no more foreign to him than the beating of his own heart, that they were living a real life separate, beyond himself, and in watching them he discovered the life within himself. In that moment he found the passing of time. He felt it, and all the island with him, and he knew. The Otter went to his friends, those two great captains who in time long gone were the height of all things good, who knew not want nor false desire, but to be among good people was to them sustenance for body, mind, and soul. He spoke to his friends. It has been a long road. For these 3 old men, more pain and violence than ever I desired to see. A warrior people are the Eolish, not made for calm times. We are farmers who do not dream of farming. At the first call, first feeling, when the winds shift and carries with it that strange scent, we drop the plow and take up arms, leave our homes and seek out war. No, Malach, your people cannot stay home long, and this land will not know peace again, not till they themselves are changed. We have raised the boy with all our virtue. There is naught left to teach him but my inconstancy, the sparrow his love of ease, and the sour brooding of Kellach. It is best that his learning end here. It is a sadness to say good-bye now. He is good, but I shall be glad not to see his fate. He will struggle and bleed all the rest of his days, till death sudden shall fall upon him. Poor child, Eolin shall not submit, not for many years yet. Friends, it has been a long road, but for me it ends in the very place of my birth, between the kind arms of this mountain. I will not leave my people. I have doomed them, and so my blood shall mix in the earth with theirs. Stay or go as your tastes suit you, but I shall go no further. Know that we shall take a high toll for their passing, selling our lives not cheaply. I can give you days to make your escape. By then your path shall have faded from the earth, and he shall not know where to hunt you. Hide and stay hidden. That is all my blood can give you." The solemn brothers bowed, weighing his words in their hearts. It seemed then the breaking of their friendship. At length Kellogg spoke. "I have fought many wars. I do not think this shall be my last. My blood still rises in me, hot and fierce. It calls on me to face that disease which has brought the land to infirmity, yet I cannot. This shall be our parting. The boy Ethewald cannot remain here, nor can that cursed boon, the ring of Malach, stay. But both must be spirited away and hidden. Sworn am I to defend both. I shall not be long parted from either. Should I remain, he would not make his way through the crags and cliffs. I cannot by my arm give you victory, and his presence would doom you. For the hunter to be so close once more to his goal would drive him to the utmost fury. I shall guide the boy out of the mountains and take him to safety. Yet should you want my advice, I would not make this place my last battle. A good home it is, truly. This place is sacred to you, and your people to it. Yet beneath its arms and fresh waters I fear your death, for the hunter has fought many battles of this kind. The short wall you have made yourselves will fall to his might. Better it is to leave this place and draw him further through the mountains. For while he may take many mortal wounds before reaching his death, his host cannot. Let them die for want of food while you watch them from safe places. Farewell, my friend. I hope for your victory." The otter grabbed his arm firmly with his own, and kissed him as a brother, and told him, "Follow this river. Its fall is not too harsh that only a goat might follow. It shall bring you out of the lands of the Unsalal. There are 3 boulders to mark the distance, one of pink stone, one of white stone, and one of black. They are the beginning, middle, and ending of the path. Though from the black stone you cannot see the green pastures, it is but round a bend. Lose not your faith, but continue the path. From there go north to the lands of the Ungol. Should I live, I will look for you there. Farewell." Kellogg left to gather his bags. He then found Ethewald working on the wall, and taking him away without further word, followed the gentle bend of the water past the pink boulder stone, beginning their flight. The sparrow remained with the otter resolved, and when asked for his answer, he said gently, "The stream makes no sound without the rocks. The birds sing not for the worms. Bears fish for salmon together. By what measure can a man be a man without his friends? Why have I a voice if not to sing for you? For were it not for the good I would not sing, my voice going dry from lack of use. It seems to me that in these last years I have found what I shall not surrender, a true friendship. I will not let that perish. I will fight though I be slain, fight though I have but little strength. I shall fight for all time. The mountains might be washed to the sea, but still I would battle, for there can be no music without ears to hear it." Wordless they embraced, and went to mind their battle. Beneath the arms of the heart of stones and the river which it weeps, they made their wall, 5 rela high, that they might see over and strike down their foe while they were beyond reach. No gate was made, for there was to be no flight. Of food they had plenty. Water was taken from the river by casting buckets. Long spears and missiles bristled from the walls as some great porcupine. Each one of their number, armed and skilled, their wait began. Yet it was not a silent wait of anxious fear, rather the loud and hearty sound of a good people whose joy is found in themselves. The sparrow sang to them the lay of Eol and all the history of their land. Long and beautiful is that song. precious to all Aeolish, and in the voice of the sparrow it gained beauty above all other things, as if all the stars of the sky were plucked from their dance and set about a necklace. Its pendant the rising sun, and by her light the stars are not blotted, but made to shine more resplendent. In thanks for his song the Un Ail Londar sang back their own, that of their Tella, a song which each Tella hold dear to themselves. Their elders keep that song alive, that their people would know the great deeds of their ancestors, tracing all back to Aeol. Eager Aeolish children listen and learn the story of their people in the hope that their name might one day be added to that story. The Un Ail Londar sang of their Tella, not only the old but the children also, and at the ending they fell silent, but the sparrow carried the melody, adding to their song the aid they gave the three captains and the dismantling of their home for those in need. This the Un Ail Londar were much pleased at, and added it to their song. In comfortable friendship they passed the night. As the sun rose above the Isle Melach, it struck the peaks of the Isle Kelrose, burning the stone to a bright red. Then the Otter called for 5 of his kin to go into the passes and search for their foe as the others broke their fast and bathed in the stream, climbing over their wall for last refreshment. For he is no man that would face death unwashed. As Eoland was placed beneath the sun's gaze, the first runner returned with word that their foe was sighted and were breaking their fast but 2 miles thence. As the sun stood in her high throne in the heavens, 2 more returned to the Heart of Stones with word of the approach of their foe, in number smaller to their own, but at their head was that fell beast, the hunter. The Un Ail Londar ceased their works and retreated behind the wall, aided over by their kin. Yet so soon from the return of the runners came the 4th, who ran with haste but without fear, his limbs wounded many times, the foe but 1/2 a mile from them, worked to a murderous rage by their chiefs. Behind their wall they were prepared. The 5th runner did not return. Their foe was near, but for an hour they waited with no sign of the host, no dust nor bird, not the thundering steps or the rattle of arms. A darkness came over their hearts, as for the first time while waiting for battle they began to dread its coming. All seemed to be cast to darkness as the sun unclouded dimmed in their eyes. The sweet water turned foul, their joys sour. The heart of the sparrow turned against the otter and his kin, and he wished that he had fled with Kellach and Ethelwald. The mountains had a hateful strangeness to him, and he yearned for the green lands of his birth. Again he searched himself, and found that hateful song which lives in all things, which he had seen writ in the faces of violent men and violent deeds. The song of death it was, and those who heard it died. He knew its words and its terrible melody as well as he knew his own heart. Yet as he brought it to the edge of his tongue, and with the next breath would bring it forth to the world, the sparrow remembered the child who had taught him to listen to true songs. In his mind she brought the memory of himself back to him. He was not a hateful man, nor a fearful one, and he drove that foreign hate from himself. At the same time he found a new song in his heart, a song of light, of standing resolved, of friendship, the song of courage. The sparrow sang and drove the shadow down the mountain and from the hearts of the Un Ail Londar, leaving them pure, as it seemed to bring the sun back to full shining. Their fear was dispelled and joy restored. They gave a mighty shout and fell into laughter, as all hearts do when a shadow is lifted. The sparrow continued his song for fear of the shadow's return. The otter stood atop the wall, his fears dispelled, spear pointed down the mountain, and with a voice so clear and loud that it shook the roots of the mountains, he issued a challenge to the darkness. The darkness came. Defeated by the true song, it resorted to iron. Cresting the mountain were the broken crows, Noreen and Prenaloch at their head, chained to that darkness that led them. The hunter had grown terrible in his want, his sword cloaked in darkness, enraged that the power which he had sent against the Isle Londar had been repulsed. Yet when he saw their position he hesitated, for though he felt the boon near him, it was faint and distant. It was the otter, who guessed the source of his hesitation, who gave a shout. Here is that foulness which has blighted my rivers and darkened the skies. What's more pleasant are those starved birds you have brought here, bound by fetters of fear. You see before you the bonds of blood, kinship undilutable by time, brought resolute to this place to frustrate your designs. You cannot take this place, for the common home of the Isle Londar is our defense. You cannot break it. I see you have come for that boon which you had stolen from your king. I hold it here in my hand, for I have slain him who carried it. All its power is now mine, and this place made unassailable. I have faced you twice, and both times I have kept you from the ring of Malach. Fate demands a third victory of me. I will not deny that fair woman. Bring your horde, I will break them. As he spoke, he held aloft a piece of glinting gold, which shone clear across the field and caught the hunter's eye. The crows were shaken, uncertain of victory and fearful of the great war chief. But the hunter was resolved, his doubts banished. The flash of gold promised to end his unsleeping need. The crows were ordered to align, but were not eager for the battle. They did not bring up their shields, enraging the hunter. He stalked the line, demanding they charge the wall, but at their continued refusal he began to slay them. The dark sword he carried grew darker as it drank the blood of cowards. The crows saw they were trapped between the hunter and the wall, and thought their chances of living higher were they to war with the Isle Londar. Terrified, they fled from his wrath toward the wall of the Isle Londar. Their charge made scattered and weak as missiles began to fall on them. Thus battle was joined. As the sun sat in her high seat, Kelloch and Ethelwald came to the second stone, the marker of Whitestone, their journey half done. So great was the need to pass beyond the reach of the hunter that they had not rested in the night, but bent over in darkness to follow the twisting path. In daylight they moved quickly, until at the Whitestone Kelloch gave his ward needed rest. Sitting at the Whitestone they broke their fast, resting for short moments before continuing their hurry. Yet as they flew from death, Kelloch thought of the words of the Otter and his own search of Illulian. He would not abandon his oath to Malach, so he spoke to Ethelwald to learn his mind. This path will take us into the wider world, where the two of us are without ally or safe haven. That we must keep safe a terrible boon which wicked men have murdered to hold has made us outcast further than our lack of people. Our names are hated in many corners of the land, and we must hold them dear as if they were our own lives. As these stand, I think a life hiding in one place holds danger of discovery. Boy, I must tell you that all wrong things in this land are brought by the ring, whose curse I myself placed on it, given ever more strength by the many voices of the Eolish. It cannot be broken, not when forged by so many. The curse may only rest in the hands of Malach's blood, that famous lineage which I fear is destroyed. I swear above all other oaths that I shall find what became of her, else the fate of the Eolish is truly to be war until the isle is broken. Yet I am also sworn to guide you, and keep safe that which you carry until she is found. You have a choice, a quiet life far from pain and war, or the lone wandering of a wraith from a past time. Tell me your mind, and I will see it done. Then I will begin my search. Ethelwald thought a long time, for the sparrow had taught him only a fool speaks without well weighing his words. When at last he spoke, it was with the eagerness of youth. Kelloch, you were once Telloch of a people proud and strong, and I the son of the Telach of Telachs. Yet we fly as rats, the meanest of all creation. This meanness is hateful to me. My ancestors call on me to rise beyond this condition. This I will do. I cannot, through the life of quiet farming in the cold Northlands, gain that place or rejoin my people. If your feet are fast set on searching for this lost child to return to her the curse which has reduced us, this I find to be a course good and true, one which will at last free the island from its pains. I am with you, teacher. We will return the boon to the blood of Malach. They continued their path down the mountains, following the river, preparing for the long scouring of Eoland. Far above them, at the peaks of the Isle Kelrose, a war fought above all Eoland waxed. The first charge of the host was repulsed with ease, for the wild crows could not reach those behind the wall, and many of them were felled by darts. They stumbled in the waters as the long spears of the Isle Londar reached for them, and behind their line stood the hunter, who slew any man within his reach. Yet as they tore desperately at the timbers, they knew they could not break the wall, and they fell away, past the river and the reach of the missiles. The sight of their flight brought a cheer from those in the wall and a bellow from the hunter. 20 of their number lay dead, blood mixed with the water, but behind the wall none were harmed. Darkness flowed across the mountainside, their hearts weighed by the terrible presence of their chief. But as he spread his darkness over stone, it did not reach those behind the river, for there the song of the sparrow held sway. On their breaking, the otter sprang atop the wall and led the cheer. Spear in hand, his voice mocked the broken men. He named them mad dogs, blind farmhands, and cat meat eaters, which so enraged Prenelach that he ended his resting and challenged the otter. The otter leapt from the wall and into the stream. Sure and confident were his feet to once again stand in the water of his youth. That rabid hound stalked its way to water's edge, frothing spittle on its lips as it promised to the world the demise of the otter. He was armed as a noble warrior with sword and shield, in boiled leather and mail, but moved as a madman. Prenelach stepped into the water, blood pooling about his legs, and on his snapping lips were more dire insults, which he would hurl upon the otter before his death. But he was not permitted to speak, for as soon as his feet entered the water his foe was upon him. Quick as lightning the otter struck, beneath the wall that was his home, and it was only by reflex that Prenelach did not die, bringing up his shield to block the strike. Recoiling, he came to solid ground, shaken by the speed. The otter put his back to the wall, and a bucket of fresh water was lowered to him. He claimed victory over Prenelach, for he had retreated from the field, driving the dog to further rage. Ravenous it sprung again, eager to be revenged, rushing back to the river. Yet again the otter was too quick and struck him twice. By his armor was he saved wounds, but the force of the strike sent him again to the ground. Laughter came from the wall, and cheers for their captain, who waited for Prenelach to stand. No dart fell upon Prenelach, but waist and bones struck him, as he struggled to stand. It was only by crawling again to the shore that he regained his footing, well resembling a starved wild dog, much to the merriment of the Isle Londar. When Prenelach reached the dirt he was no longer pelted by refuse, and the otter returned to the middle of the stream, his spear ready. The mind of Prenelach was clouded over with rage and made despondent by the darkness behind him, a chaos which drove him to further madness, and he stormed into the water once more. Prenelach knew that as soon as his foot touched the water the spear would come flying once more, so he brought his shield up and readied his sword, charging into the water well prepared. As soon as his foot was wetted in the stream he swung, but the otter was ever beyond his reach, and when he had exhausted his arm attacking, and his legs struggled against the water, The otter struck. First his spear stabbed the leg, and Prenelach fell to his knee. Then the spear swung about and cut through the leather at his side, that he dropped his sword in agony, his blood mingling in the waters with that of those he had led to death. The final blow came swiftly. Prenelach had only a moment to cry out at his wounds. His eyes closed in fear. The spear of the otter struck him in the eye, and Prenelach fell dead. His last breath joined with the wind as a cheer went up among the otter's kin. Ropes were thrown down to him, and he climbed up the wall into their eager arms, until he stood atop the wall, and another cheer resounded off the mountain stone. The battle cry of a great host, splendid and terrible to those who heard it as the roar of golden lions in large deserts far away. With slow certainty, the otter pointed his spear still wet with blood at the heart of the hunter in solemn promise. In his other hand was the glitter of gold, and he spoke in voice clear to all the mountain top. I see with eyes unclouded why you pursue my prize with such fervor. By the skill of the wise man of Isle Melech, all things which I desire are wrought on the land. Look upon the earth before me. There lies your host slain by mine, and there in the waters of my youth is the mad dog which followed so many cruel commands, twisted in the hands of bad masters. It shall bark no more. The filth is washing away from our land, one fool at a time. Rot must be cut from the body. It seems I am nearly done with my work. Your great dark power is not able to reach here under the protection of the ring. Come, O you mighty storm, and try these mountains. We have weathered endless rains before, and you shall learn why storms do not fly above the Isle Kelrose. The darkness redoubled, throwing itself against the island of light in rage renewed. Across the field bloody those in chains did charge, and the power of the dark gave their limbs strength, that they hit the wall as a storm, with axe and sword hacking away, and with that evil power they broke and rent the wood till flotsam joined blood in the stream. Yet as they charged, more of their number fell to swift dart and long spear, and they withered. But as they fell, so too did a number of the Isle Londar. For as their wall was damaged, grasping hands pulled them from their safety and slew them beneath the wall. So the battle waxed furious as the hunter first took the field, no longer contented with felling his own. The dark beast charged as a bull. The weight of many souls hit the wall with terrible force, causing it all to shiver and bend where he hit it. But it did not break. As he made great swings of his sword and damaged the wall further, clawing his way to that boon which he had for so long strove, many spears cut his face and body. Blood flowed from his face together with dark vapors which stained the earth. Furious was the onslaught, but more furious were those who stood against it, who stood steady by courage and the song of the sparrow. The otter had held his spear beside his kin and gave many wounds. But when the hunter charged, he ran to that place as the battle grew, and under his direction their spears pushed as one, forcing back the darkness. The hunter stumbled into the river, and a hush fell over the field as all eyes looked to the terrible chief, his poisonous blood fouling the river. The crows wavered as he fell to his knees. Noreen began to retreat across the stream as cheering began to spread, but darkness was not defeated that day. The black ichor healed his many wounds, leaving him refreshed. Up sprang he, villain by dark power renewed. Up sprang he, and battle was rejoined. The crows cheered, and those behind the wall despaired as darkness pushed against the sparrow. The hunter again attacked, clambering over the wall, receiving bloody wounds which did not harm him, as beside him his host surged. The otter saw death before them and threw himself into the fray. giving his strength in effort to save his people. He stood upon the uneven wall and stabbed at the hands of the hunter, who was unused to climbing and struggling. Seeing their child atop the wall, the Un Ail Londar took heart and battled well against the rising crows. The hunter abandoned his climb under the assault of the otter and slashed at his feet, but the ever-quick otter escaped, tumbling to safety behind the wall. The second fury of the host slew many inside the wall, but it too broke against that stalwart line. The wild host exhausted itself against them, and with many wounds and wounded they retreated back across the stream. The hunter did not run, continuing his assault against the wall as all the darkness and power he possessed battered against them, that song which poured from the sparrow buffeted in the tempest. With hand and sword, the hunter tore through the wall without notice of his wounds. Shot and spear fell quiet as the darkness took hold of hearts. It was the otter, uninjured by his fall, that brought back hope when the song grew dim, for he took a missile and waited as the hunter broke through the wall. When the wall fell, the otter with furious strength used all that anguish the hunter placed in him in his arm, driving the dart into the hunter's skull. The hunter fell to the earth, clutching this latest wound, his strength failing and darkness receding. The song of the sparrows steadied, and all about lifted their spirits. But the siege was not yet over. For though he had been felled by a wound more deadly than others, the hunter placed all his power to his very life, and sustained himself in agony. The blackness fell heavy on the ground as he staved off the mortal wound. He crawled from the wall to his men, nearly drowning in the water as he struggled, his strength gone. A dark slime trailed behind him. The otter pursued him not, falling to his knees as he too lost his power. So much of himself he had placed into his strike that he nearly fell to a stupor. Without their captains the two hosts did not give battle, standing opposite the rocky field, resting for the last charge which all knew had to be made. Hours they stood as the sun left her high place and fell into decay, the signs of war washed away by the water. A further 20 crows lay dead, and many others bore wounds, half strength and weary. Behind the wall, burial began for those who had fallen, numbering 15 of the oldest and youngest Un Ail Londar. They were much mourned. All the while the sparrows sang, careful of sudden attack. Far away, beneath the same setting sun, Kellach and Ethelwald walked carefully for fear of missing the black stone boulder. They were in a rocky valley beneath great mountains. The stream had grown to a strong river, joined by many others born in lower places, washing over every rock in its path, steadfast and determined to reach the sea. The pair had fallen silent in that lonesome place, yet Ethelwald was burdened by the many thoughts of his coming life. These he kept to himself until they found the black stone. Great it was, nearly 20 rella high, and all of smooth, black, unchanging stone. Ethelwald exclaimed at the sight, knowing their journey near beginning. He spoke to his guardian. This path is soon ending, and from this place we go to that great journey beyond, a life uncertain as we search for that which was lost. But as we leave this dark place we should prepare, for what that journey in green pastures shall be is beyond the pale of these eyes. I am afraid for the weight of this chase, that we must find that which vanished long ago before the hunter, who by his dark arts is drawn to this cursed boon with terrible speed, finds us alone and friendless. The thought of him gaining what he has slain so many for is dreadful to me, for I cannot dream of the depths of misery that shall be brought against the Aeolish should he gain this prize. Would it not be better to find those allies who might lend us their strength or hide us from the searching beast? The succor of friends is the greatest aid to the weary and lost. Let us flee to great help. There are many who hate the hunter for the war of burning. Let us seek friends in those places. This task we do for all the land. Should not the land help us achieve victory? Kellogg listened to his ward, his only companion for mighty tasks ahead, and would not dismiss him from fears alone. Yet as he listened, he watched the surround, dark peaks unlit by bright sun, and trees starved of yellow rays. The river turned dark as blood and flotsam churned in the foam, and to him his cause seemed desperate, hopeless as he had never felt as he despaired the ending. So he spoke to Ethelwald. There are many worries which belong to the friendless and hunted. In many ways our journey is more desperate than you fear, yet one is much lighter. For the only good deed of my life was cursing that ring by all the voices in Eoland. Should our friends lose the mountain pass, and the hunter pursue with renewed vigor, fear not his final fall. By horrid dark power he might discover us before we hear whispers of the name Illulian, but in seizing the ring from you he will doom himself. None can hold the ring of Malach without his blood, but be given to grim death. He shall be destroyed by power or arrogance, whichever arrow flies swifter. I would not put hope in faithless butchers. They who turn against their blood will not harbor us safely. All Tella should be avoided, for a traveler without one is a thief, or else banished or cursed. We cannot bear the suspicion, nor let Atella learn of us. Far better it is to be alone, though doomed to die. Yet this does not mean that we should not be alone ourselves. In a time of war there is always need for warriors. We may by cunning gather others outcast and hide in their number, scouring the land for the daughter while battling as a warband for hire. We shall see war, cause pain to good men, burn homes for coin, all in guise. And when the day comes at last, we shall part with that curse and offer our lives to any that wish to take it. A fitting end to warriors without a blood. On they went, Kellogg in despair, but Ethelwald in high spirits, for he did not fear as Kellogg feared, and a band of warriors skilled about them gave him hope of victory. Around a dark bend they turned and found themselves out of the mountains. The wide hills of Eoland stretched out before them just as night began to lay hold. On their hunt they went with speed. True darkness fell upon those in the mountain as the two hosts again readied themselves. The otter had drunk deeply of the fresh water and ate a good meal with his kin. As across the field of stone and death the crows cawed in astonishment, for the dart which the otter had driven into the head of the hunter was removed, and the wound healed by black smoke. That their master could not die from such wounds brought the enslaved to a frenzy, and Noreen gathered 5 of their number. In the darkness they would burn the wall, and the restored hunter would with ease slay all inside. These 6 set aside their armor, that they might in perfect quiet steal upon their foe, and waited for a cloud to cover the rising moon. As ferrets at the door to the warren, they prepared for the flash of fang and scent of blood. They crossed the river by stepping on the dead to not disturb the water, and hid themselves in the shadow of the wall. Tinder struck and fire caught. Flaming brands fell on the wall. Fire ravaged that mighty guard. Alarm through the camp as the design of their foe was discovered, and the buckets of water preserved for their drink were poured on the fire as others in arms chased away Noreen and his men with darts. The otter sprang up at the first cries, spear in hand, to direct the efforts of his kin. Yet when he saw those bandits running through the night, he leapt from the wall and into battle. His feet wet in the water of the stream, he slew 3 of their number before they reached the other side, slaying a 4th wounded by missiles as he called for aid. In his plot, Noreen had left behind all spears and axes. About him was only a short sword and dagger. As he fled through the darkness to the arms of that evil which cared not if he lived or perished, he did not draw them. With all his speed he fled from the otter, stumbling over the loose stones, drunk with victory and fear. The otter was eager for the quarry, but Noreen would soon be safe from pursuit, and so the otter came to a halt, for beyond the reach of the sparrow's power waited death, the aimless crows, and in their midst the hunter refreshed, eagerly waiting his moment. But Noreen could not go free for burning the timbers of his home. He raised his spear, waiting for Noreen to slow, and when his feet slipped the spear flew, a shaft of vengeance. Fury born of blood flew as a holy bolt given swiftness by some solemn judgment. It struck Noreen through the stomach, and he fell to his knees where the sparrow's song did battle with the dark pressure of the hunter. His blood watered the barren earth as a cry left his lips, but all his strength left him, and he lay unmoving in the twilight between the two powers. The otter went to him, wary of the hunter, and pulled his spear free in the face of his foes. Noreen gave a hollow moan. With his eyes on death, Noreen spoke, a hard whisper meant for no man, but which the otter heard. Harsh, thin, cold air fills my lungs. It shocks my mind. Yet how pleasing it is to breathe. A gentle bellows disrupted by recklessness, an industry which should have continued for many years more. Hands, clever machines artfully crafted by muscle and tendon, the gristle, the meat turned by some power to become purposeful. Yet here lie grasping at stones rather than hold those tools of creation. Heart, O wretched heart, I fear you have doomed it all, for it was you that brought red-hot blood to all these muscles, enraging them with your martial beat. What can resist that ever-present thrum? I wish that they could not hear you and work to the fulfillment of other designs. Weak, too weak. Here lay I in the dirt as my lifeblood leaves me. Pain never before imagined has seized me. Convulsions of fear and loneliness rack me. I cannot lift my head to feel the breeze, nor gaze upon the stars. Alone in creation am I, frightfully so. There is not now any man about me, for what man knows this feeling? Here the dread spectre comes, yet death is no stranger, though now I see him for the first time. I have known him since those dread days of Malach the Ruthless. I have done this to many by my own hand. Did their faces share this same shock that I now have? Aye, in my memory their faces are etched by horror, the same, I think, I now wear. A man will live in his past until he has no future. Then does he discover that the present is all the time he was ever given, that he lives but that short moment. What a fool I have been! Curse all that has come before which has led me to such a shameful present. There was a day when I was meant to become Telach of all Eoland, had that beast Kellach fought as he was sworn to do. Yet he was slain in treachery by the same who have ended me. The world burns, the world turns, and is always reborn, yet without me. Endings. Life is endings. The ever-present moment dies, and yet remains unchanged. Curse my time on this spit of earth. It was only wasted. Strength left him, and he fell still on the earth. The otter marked his passing, then turned his gaze to the hunter. The beast rose, thick black ichor covering his face. He marked not the death of him that had been close and loyal servant. His only thought was the loneliness of the otter, so far from the wall. The otter knew this, and when he had cleaned his spear on Noreen's clothes, and reviewed their number and strength, he fled back to safe lines. The hungry crows broke their lines and pursued, trampling the dead in their chase. Yet their prey had many times run from death, escaping the many patrols of the Hawk King, reaching the water and safety well before them. He saw the damage which Noreen had wrought, as a third of the wall was charred, but worse was a section burnt nearly to the ground that 3 men might walk abreast. No longer could their home protect them. The Otter went through this hole just as his pursuers began to reach the water's edge, commanding his people to place their long spears to defend their weakness and along the weakened walls. And where their foe was the enslaved crows, they prevailed, for they were few in number and could make no headway against the Un Ail Londar. But when the hunter deemed the time proper, he came to battle, though subdued by the true song of the sparrow. His coming was as the storm to shore, shattering the tall tree and throwing its branches. Without a wall none could stand against him, for he noticed not the wounds which marked his body, bringing his fell weapon against all in reach. 40 of the Un Ail Londar fell as their line was broken. The battle lost, many fled but could not scale the walls of stone or of wood. Some fought on in small desperate pockets. Some threw their arms to the earth and begged for mercy they would not find. Others merely closed their eyes, awaiting their ending. Few escaped. At last the hunter found the object of his fury. The otter stood prepared, slaying any crow which approached him with terrible swiftness. Behind him the sparrow continued his song, marking not the tide of war. No words were exchanged. Both felt the battle soon to be fought. Fire broke out behind the hunter as the crows set all alight. But for the 2 warriors there was naught but the other. It was the hunter who began the battle, rushing with a power unhuman, sword raised to make quick work of the last defender of the ring. Yet the otter was swift, avoiding the swing and stabbing him under the arm. The hunter turned quickly, stabbing downward, but again the otter avoided him and delivered a wound. Wild the hunter began to charge, afraid that the wounds which were given by his foe came from the power of the ring, that having come so far and done so much he would be thwarted on this, his last step. Yet as he looked about he saw advantage. In their dance he had come in between the otter and the sparrow, and that the latter was at his mercy, kneeling on the ground with eyes closed, his gentle song pouring from his lips. It was his power, a gentle thrum which rippled through all things, which restrained the irresistible tempest that surged inside the hunter. The singer's death would free him to slay the other, and so he turned from the battle toward the wingless bird. His dark weapon flashed in moonlight, yet it drank no blood, for the otter saw the change in his foe, and desperate he ran to the side of his friend, planting his spear in the path that the blade notched the haft, gouging the wood deep. The hunter twisted his blade and with great strength shattered the wood. The long spear shortened to a dart. Yet as he did so, the otter with fist hit the hunter on his black heart, forcing him backwards. Again the otter stood between the hunter and the sparrow, unmarked by wounds and fresh, short spear readied. He was not contented with again receiving his foe, advancing on him steadily, focusing not on the screams of his family, nor the delighted howls of the slaves, not the fire raging through their camp, only on the dark chieftain. His sword prepared, his hackles raised, the beast of violence regained its balance and prepared to engulf its foe, but it was unprepared to defend itself. The otter drove hard. With furious speed he delivered 5 wounds, avoiding the snake-like strike the beast gave, and gave a 6th wound through the knee that the leg was broken. A howl unleashed and the beast fell to the earth. Yet a hunter does not relent when a bear is struck once, for its blood boils once spilt, and its eyes flare. Battle is begun at the first wound, not won. So the otter did not relent, but drew back his spear and struck again, cutting the tendons of the arm, that the sword fell from dead fingers. And again that ichor bubbled forth. Yet no man could claim victory over the wound, and though wounded many times, with grave cuts that would bleed a man white, he had left that people long ago. So in the dirt, eyes clouded by his blood, Without air, without standing, the hunter slew the otter. With his sinister hand he took his sword, and a sudden he turned from pathetic to ferocious, just as the otter went to deliver another cut. Too late did he see the sword. His leather parted easily to it. Into his stomach the cruel iron delved. Fresh red blood fell to the earth, and he fell to the dirt where so many of his kin lay. The sparrow broke from his trance at the fall of his friend. His protection faded as he wept, and at once, as great black tentacles of the squid, the unchained darkness of the hunter poured from him and swallowed them. Wordless the sparrow watched as the beast tore through the clothes of his friend. All wounds vanished in black smoke, searching for that single object of want, a starved hound gnawing at ruined remains, but found it not. A wail rose from its lips, so terrible the rocks split and the crows fell to their knees. True despair at failure, it flooded from the dark water and into each of their hearts. The hunter looked up from his meal. Foul fears ruled his mind, contorted with rage. His gaze fell upon the sparrow. Desperate, the beast rose and came on 4 legs to the weeping sparrow. For what power could restrain him, slayer of heroes, but that of the ring? He pawed over the sparrow, his hands wet with the blood of the otter, weeping from fear as he did. But finding it not, he threw the sparrow with his dark might and began searching the earth for the glint of gold. His arm broken, the sparrow crawled through mud and ash to the side of the otter and pulled him on his lap. The great captain breathed still, but ragged and shallow. Exhausted from even such simple action, he let despair take him once more, searching for that final song. The hunter spoke with a sneer, more afraid than ever that the ring again escaped him, as his men continued to murder and mutilate. Finally an end to lyrical song. Wailing has always been more pleasing, something to enjoy as I lift that which was promised to me. It is mine, this thing, yet it was withheld from me by thieves and kidnappers. Victory. Yes, victory, final and permanent. It is elation. I feel joy in every end of my being. Yet there is something amiss. I cannot feel the ring though I stretch out my senses to the utmost limit. It is my eagerness, my desire to see the dream of years finished which interrupts them. It is only natural for a man. There is no action without desire, and alone of the race of man I have not surrendered mine, but clung more desperately as the days passed. Now, in this miserable glen I have it, and victory at last. His men cheered in some hope of freedom, but over their celebration came a grim sound, for the sparrow laughed a most pleasant laugh, and it was terrible to them. Then he spoke. Yes, victory, terrible though it cost, 100 of the best lives which I have ever known, but victory at last. Fool, do you see the grave of the mighty Kellogg or the boy Ethelwald? Search the mountain entire, dig to its very roots. You shall not find the warrior, nor the Telach, nor the ring of Malach. You cannot find them, for they are not here. They pass down the mountains swifter than the waters, and are on the shore of this land as I speak, searching for a boat which will take them across the sea to the wide lands beyond. You saw the shine of gold in the hand of a man, and so wasted your days on that small promise. All men in Eoland, I name you the greatest fool. More than any man you have wasted your numbered hours, and that which I have searched for I have found. Victory. The sun rose over mountain peaks as the sparrow began singing the song of death, words he knew by heart. They chained all who listened in horror, as if some great wolf stalked their midst. Only the hunter moved, furious for their treachery, but the power of the song slowed him. A sea entire sat against him. The sparrow watched the hunter approach, watched the crows gaze in horror, watched the otter breathe his last. He spoke the last word of that song, and all who heard it died. End. Book 5. The Ring of Dain Thar Duin was written and performed by Michael Frutig. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. Supporters get text files of each chapter, as well as access to Q&A posts, other writing projects, such as flash fiction and chapters of other works. Go to patreon.com/michaelfrutig for more. patreon.com/MICHAELFRUTIG. Thank you.